in their meeting with us, we were allowed to take a good look at ourselves. We were reminded that we are made in the image and the likeness of God. And if that is true, there's some things we have to change that we've been thinking all along. We were given a whole new set of lenses with which to see the Word of God. Then we read it with a desire to understand what that love letter is all about. We were allowed to put ourselves, not talk about somebody else, like the sermon wasn't for this one or that one, but it was for us. We have gained such growth this week. I have gained such growth this week. My eyes have been opened. And God also used the tailors to help me to see the things that have been happening in my life were His call on my life to be a better person, to be more caring, more loving, more compassionate. Have you written a letter to yourself yet? We did that this week. We wrote a love letter to ourselves. And we weren't afraid to call ourselves beautiful because we are made in the image and the likeness of God. Amen. I pray that everyone here had an opportunity at least one night to have joined with the tailors to begin that new journey. You're living in a race, and you're running, and you see the end inside. We're at that place. The end is inside. But there's some things we need to correct. There's some erroneous information we've carried for a while, and so much so it has been inculcated in our spirits. But we saw this week, it's okay to let go of that. And it is now time for us to see what God intends for us. What we need to chase after is love. Not houses, not cars, not clothes, not food. God said in Matthew 6:33, He'll provide all of that. So this week, our hearts have been open to receive God as He desired to be received by us. And we want to say thank you to the tailors for this.
What I find most fascinating is a children's book. A children's book written by none other than a child, Ariana. With this book, she talks about her journey to healing, and she wants to reach children with a desperate cry. To me, that is so mind-blowing because, again, as children, we are impacted in ways that we sometimes haven't dreamt of, right? Whether it's, we were muzzled as children, whether we were not hugged, we were not loved, whatever those situations are, and we did not deal with them. And guess what happened? We grew up to adults and we bleed out on the people around us. So if we can address these things as children, OMG, can you imagine what a beautiful world that would be?
Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us on this evening. My name is Winston Taylor.
And I'm Kamala Taylor.
And we are so super excited that you could join us. Kamala, what are we doing here? What do we do here every Monday night? What are we doing?
Well, first of all, our program, if you don't already know that, is Monday Night with KW. And our program really has been born out of just wanting to really dive into the lives of others who have been through challenging circumstances or have worked through challenging circumstances, or people who, and to interact with those of us who are still working through challenges in our lives.
And the whole objective is to reach people with a desperate cry. Tonight's program is really special because a desperate cry that many people have that I don't know that we talk about enough is retirement. What does it look like? Does that mean my life ends? And so we would love for you to join us in this conversation on tonight. Keep in mind that this program is born out of our own desperate cry. Kamala and I, as we struggled through life and struggled through marriage, we got to the point where we thought our marriage was going to end. And since God has helped us, and as we are on this journey to heal, we want to invite others to join us on this journey. Now, I say that every week, and it's really, really important that people get that the objective is for us all to go on a journey of healing.
And I think that one of the things that has happened so far is that we've really been able to hear from so many others who have gone through different kinds of circumstances. We've been on a journey through divorce. We've been on a journey through grad school. We've been on a journey through, we've been on a journey through grief. We've been on a journey through...
Where Alicia's brother, who is an engineer, a chemical engineer, designed a product to share with the world because her daughter has really bad
sensitive skin.
Yeah.
So we've been through all kinds of different journeys here. And how we started
a journey
and
through
where
grief.
we're going.
That was a good one with Kathy. Yeah.
It sure was.
Yeah.
And where we're going and where we want for everyone to go with us, like you said, is to recognize, one, if you're going through something hard right now, you're not alone.
Right.
And two, we can learn from each other as we go through different parts of our life stories.
Now, last week we had a great discussion with Dr. Reed, a therapist, and we talked with her about a journey through grief, and through therapy rather, and she wrote 2 amazing books that we weren't able to give away because no one participated last week. We saw you on, but all we see on here are numbers. In order for us to know you're here, like Brother Glenn is giving his daughter a shout out. Good night, my son and my daughter. Oh yeah, he gave me a shout out too. We need you to communicate with us. ask our guests questions, be a part of the conversation, and that way, by the end of the program, Anna Kay will get you in the runnings for to win. And so tonight, what we want to do is still give away these two books. From my eyes, stories and reflections for men and women. This is for you, and this is by Dr. Novia Reed, soon to be Dr. Novia Reed. So we want to still give those away. I can tell you now, Brother Glenn is in the running because he has already started in the discussion. Before we bring our guest in tonight, I'd like to highlight a product. I'm just going to push one tonight, Kamala. And the one that I'd like to really push tonight out of our store is the Journey to Healing, Reaching People with a Desperate Cry, 8 Coping Skills to Heal. 8 Coping Skills to Heal. This book was written by no other person than Kamala Glenn Taylor, licensed marriage and family. Oh, yes, that's her sitting right beside me. Licensed marriage and family therapy. And this book is actually having your own therapist with you. It's actually having your own therapist with you. Actually, that's what this book really is. It's a workbook. And all it does, it affirms you. It affirms you and challenges you to think differently. So Kamala, go ahead.
So I want us to think about it this way. So it would be really great if life gave us a guidebook to lead us through challenges, lead us through struggles, and to kind of teach us how to cope along the way. The truth is, life did not come with a prepackaged guidebook when we started out. We have learned a lot of things along the way. Truth, in fact, we have learned not just good things, but we have learned some really negative ways of coping too. And so,
Kamala, I think we have learned mostly negative. I think it started out wrong with the whole idea of we're machines, especially, let me speak about in the West. We're machines. So from a product perspective, we're machines created to just work. And that's one of the things. And I'm really excited about our guest tonight because one of the things she did, and we'll talk to her, she'll tell us more. One of the things that she did was she walked away from lots of money and lots of stress for probably more stress in the classroom, but where she was giving back, where she was preparing, where she was educating. And so I want to ask her how she made those decisions as she prepared for retirement tonight. And so I'm really excited about that. And so I think we started out wrong with the idea that we're machines. And we're just there to produce. And so, and the second thing is religion. So we just started out wrong all kinds of way, in that most of us believe that our God is some being to be pleased, to be I'm trying to find the right word, because we want to please God, but no, that was the right word. He's some being to be pleased, and so we have to perform tricks, like how we have pets. We have to perform tricks. One of the things I love about Zach, and I think all 3 of our kids were like this, and maybe your kids were like this too. Zach will be counting. No, let me use a real one. Zach was playing the C scale, and he was doing it really, really, really well. And I decided I want to show him off on Facebook. And so I turned on the camera, and as soon as I turned on the camera, that little booger would not do it anymore. And as soon as I turned off the camera, he did it again. He's like, I'm not gonna do no tricks for you, brother. I mean, I'm your son. I'm not your toy. And many of us, we view God from that perspective, where we have to perform for him. And if we don't perform for him, then we won't please him. When actually, God just wants to be pleased by our everyday lives. And so, Kamala, I wanted to ask you something about one of the chapters you wrote here, or one of the discussions you have here. One of the and it's number 14, and it's rest. It's you talked about come and rest. 5, come and rest. Sleep hygiene is the way to go, right? And what I want for you to do is I'm just gonna ask you about one don't and one do. And you just tell us real quick why that's important.
Okay.
You said don't exercise within an hour of going to bed.
That's an interesting one to start with because the exercise serves two purposes. It both helps us to rest and it also can take away from our rest if not
Adrenaline,
done,
right?
if not done in the proper way. And so the recommendation in terms of not exercising within an hour of going into bed has a lot to do with that adrenaline rush that we get.
See, I'm smart.
You sure you were on the ball? And so if we do that within an hour of going to bed, what we're actually doing is kind of pumping our body up. And so it's going to be more difficult for us to get rest in that kind of time, space, and time period. The flip side to don't exercise within an hour of going to bed is that you should regularly exercise.
All right, wonderful. Let me ask you one about the do's. Keep the bedroom dark enough to facilitate sleep.
Okay. This one is actually one of my favorite ones. So one would think, right? Well, no, maybe I shouldn't start that way. Our eyes don't know the difference between daylight, the phone light, the computer light, the TV light. And so every single time we put ourselves in an environment on a continual basis where we send our eyes the message that, hey, it's daytime now through whichever means, that's what our brains learn.
Yes,
it learns that this is an awake period.
Yes,
and so when we practice to keep our bedrooms really lit up, whether it's through electronic devices or through other means, what we're actually teaching our brains to stay awake.
And some people will say, that doesn't apply for me. I can sleep through lights. But the question is, are you getting your best sleep?
What's your quality of sleep?
What's the quality of sleep? So again, I would encourage you. It's not a big book at all. And it's a workbook. So it's super active. I would encourage you to please go to our website. It's there she goes. That's the Anna for you. It's right there on your screen, kwministries.net/shop. kwministries.net/shop. And would you grab the Journey to Healing, Reaching People with a Desperate Cry, 8 Coping Skills to Heal. 8 Coping Skills to Heal. And while you're there, grab my daughter's book. This
is our bestseller right now, guys.
It is.
You want to get it while you still can.
It really is. Her teacher, Miss Marchani, her second grade teacher, former teacher, her second grade teacher, Miss Marchani, out of Maryland. She moved to Maryland where she serves as a principal now. Sent and got a copy. And thank you, Miss Marchani. Thank you so very much. We really, really appreciate you. And okay, Sister Dorothy Smith is in the house.
Hey,
she's in the
Sister
house.
Dorothy.
So please have her in the running. So we have people in the runnings already for their gifts. All right. What you do to get your gift, once we're finished, Annika is going to tell us who the winners are. All you have to do is go to kwministries.net. Christine, I think you're going to be hearing your voice before this is over, Christine. Christine says she got her book and she loves it. Yeah. I think you're going to be hearing your voice before this is over. All right, but what you're going to do to get your gift is you're going to go to, when you hear your name, when Annika calls your name at the end, you're going to go to kwministries.net. You're going to go to Claim My Prize, and then you're going to put in your information there, and then we will get that book off to you by Dr. Novia Reed, soon to be Dr. Novia Reed, as we talked about a journey through therapy. She's going to tell us from what she noticed about men, and she's going to tell us women who you are. So those are really good books.
So if you want to stay in the runnings for that prize, you got to comment and share with us as we're going along tonight.
That's right.
We're getting ready
to
jump into it with none other than Rosabel Martin. She is going to be walking us through this journey to retirement.
Now I can tell, let me say this quick. Okay, the moment she comes on here, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to be tempted to be like, what am I doing? I'm not listening to this woman. What does she know about retirement? Okay, you see, he looks like she's 16 years old, okay? And that's one of the things we will ask her about. You know, she might blush a little bit, but that's one of the things we will explore with her. is how is she able to remain so magnificent? I pray you look like Sister Martin.
Oh, I pray so too.
You know, my hope is good. We'll be right back with Sister Rosabel, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation. If you know somebody that's contemplating retirement, if you know somebody that's getting ready to start working, if you know somebody that's having a rough time through the workforce right now, if you know somebody that has a desperate cry as to deal with work, retirement, why don't you text them and say, hey, there's this program that's on YouTube. Send them the link and let them join us. We're going to go to a break real quick.
Hey, Pastor, I finished the book last night. Oh my goodness. Man, I'm going to have my niece read it some more today. But I couldn't put it down. What a powerful read. Your daughter did a phenomenal job in that writing. That was so good. Oh, the story was so, I could put myself in it in so many different ways, and wow, it was well written. I mean, I could not put it down. I was up with that book till midnight last night. I was like, whoa, I'm not putting it down. I was like, I wanted more. And I really love how she incorporates her spiritual life and you know, the choices that she make.
I am super excited tonight, Kamala, to have Sister Rosabel Martin in the house.
I am too. I think we're gonna have such a great conversation.
How are you doing?
I am doing excellent.
Awesome. When I spoke to you today, or was it yesterday? You were at the food bank. What were you? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So I run the food bank for my church, which is making sure that the food comes in, stored until the time we give it out, and coordinate the workers. I make sure some are doing this, some are doing that, and some are doing that. So I oversee the running of the food pantry for my church.
So technically, you haven't really retired.
Yes and no. Retired from one thing. But church work is my life. So I can't sit still and see things need to be done.
Yeah.
Now, you said church work is your life. You can't sit still and see things that need to be done. And I want for you to remember you said that, because I want for us to explore that a little bit later, because I believe that's a part of the why Sister Martin is handling and dealing with retirement so well.
Absolutely. So now, well, let me start here. Sister Martin, what do you prefer? Rosabel, Rose, Sister Martin? How
She
do you
prefers Rosabel.
Whichever is easy for you. Rose, Rosie, Rosabel, except Rosabella.
You have to forgive me, man.
I did, because only you.
Okay, all right, Sister Rose.
All right, so then, I think it's important, really, if we're going to start a conversation about the journey to retirement, we got to talk about how we got there.
All right, we can. But before we do that, Kamala, I want to do this. Okay, Sister Rose is getting ready to move to Florida.
Yes.
And I just want to clear this up now, because let me tell you what your pastor does. He sneaks and watch, okay? He doesn't show himself when he's watching, so we don't know that he's there. He might be there. So I want to make sure we all have something clear. Is there a room in Florida for me?
I have, Pastor, I was blessed with 8 brothers. I have 6 alive now. And they all are vying for the first one to come to put their name on a room. So I love you, Pastor, but you're going to be in line.
Well, and that's fine. I don't mind being in line. I just want to clear this up, because I know he's out there watching me. So I want to be clear. I'm at least 3 persons in front of Pastor Baldeo, correct?
My lips are sealed.
You're a good woman. You're a good woman.
All right, Sister Rose, walk us through the beginnings. You've come this far to the stage of retirement. Where are you coming from?
Yes.
All right, so a little snapshot of my life. So I was born in Antigua, West Indies. I left high school pretty young, and I started teaching at 17.
Wow.
So I did that for a couple of years. Then I migrated and I did a degree in mathematics. I majored in mathematics with some accounting classes. So when I finished school, I decided, what should I do? I was looking into teaching, but I didn't like the money at the time and different things. So I found myself in corporate America. Of course, I was doing well, but I was at this firm and I said to myself, I asked a friend one day, how come there's no blacks in the offices? And he said, one day you'll find out. But, I said, okay. I was doing well. I had a good position. I would travel between offices. I would get a car to take me to Whippany, take me to Wall Street, take me different places for meetings. But then it just wasn't working out because, you get to a point, but they wouldn't give you the position, the full title to get the money. And after time, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just see that corporate America was not for me. And I knew because of my math background, I could always go into teaching. So I went into teaching. Of course, so I was out of school a couple of years, working on Wall Street for nearly 15 to 20 years. So then I had to go back and do the teaching exam, which I did. And I went into math teaching and I loved it, but it was a challenge. Imagine you giving up something. My salary was 55% of what I was making in corporate America. So that was a big challenge.
Yeah.
Thinking of you giving up a job and you're taking a new job only paying 55%. So at first I couldn't look at my salary. I couldn't look at the check. I couldn't look at it.
For sure.
I really couldn't look at it. I said, God, let me just pay my tithe. And my sister said, pay, with the house, because I already had the house. He said, whatever you can give me, just give me. Don't worry about it. But after time, it's just money. Peace of mind and happiness is much more than money. And I can tell anyone that, money will work for a time, but peace of mind, no money can buy that.
Yeah.
And
so what do you say to someone right now who either one, they're getting ready to leave school, or they're in a job where they're making good money but it's driving them crazy? What do you say? What do you say to them?
No money can buy peace of mind. No money. So you make the money for a while, but then you're not happy. And there's always going to be something there that's going to tell you this is not your right spot in life. This is not your right spot in life. Money does not make a man happy. Money is not you can't take a job for the money alone.
Yeah.
It has to be more than money.
What helped you to be able, because sometimes when we're talking about things, we say hindsight is 20/20, right? So when we're looking back at something, it makes perfect sense. But what helped you at that time to make that transition from corporate America into teaching and being able to, kind of navigate that big transition?
To the back of my mind all the time, I always thought I should go back to teaching because that's my love. Teaching math to students is something I always loved. So to the back of my mind, and while I was in corporate America, I was tutoring a lot of students. So the back of my mind, but then once you get into corporate America and have the money, it's a hard transition. Be truthful. It's a very hard transition to do. So it takes a while for you to realize that you're not happy. You got to go. You're not happy. You got to go. You got to move on.
So here is what I've learned so far tonight. And please, Annika just asked you all to please join in the discussion. Here's what I have learned so far tonight, Kamala, is that if I'm going to do a job, it needs to be out of passion.
Yeah.
It needs to be out of love.
Right.
It needs to be out of a calling. Because Sister Rose cannot convince me that teaching in New York was easier than corporate America. There's nothing she can say that would convince me, especially then, that teaching in New York was easier than corporate America. So what I'm hearing her say, if you were called to corporate America, if you were called to something, then you're going to keep going at that thing.
Yeah.
But once you realize, wait a minute, this is not my calling, I'm losing my sanity, then I need to go where my passion is driving me.
I heard that loud and clear.
You heard that too, right?
I also heard that we also have to be patient with ourselves, because when we first transition into something, we have to give ourselves a time period to know if this is the place for me.
Yes.
Because when it gets time for me to make those decisions about moving on to something else or staying, it has to come from a place of, I've looked at this, I've assessed this, I know what's right for me, and I know what's not right for me. Would you agree, Sister Rosabel?
Excellent. You said it excellent. That's excellent. That's exactly my thoughts.
And 15 years in, she would have well known that this is not where I want to. All right, so you're in teaching. What was your favorite part? Well, before we go there, I have to ask you, what was your favorite part about corporate America? What was your favorite part about Wall Street?
It has lots of perks. It had lots of perks. If I feel one night I want to come home by taxi cab, I called up the company. I need a taxi to go home. And I sit back in the car and I said, when you get off the exit at exit 16, wake me up.
now
that sounds
you
like
have Alec over there rolling the laughter. Okay?
And then I'll tell you how to get to my house from there. So it has lots of perks. It does have lots of perks, but long nights working sometimes, but it does have lots of perks, but like everything else, you got to find yourself.
And you have to have peace of mind.
And,
and all the rides in a cab, in a limo, all the fancy buildings, none of that give you peace of mind.
None of that.
So kind of going off that. So when you made the transition to teaching, you are there now. What did it feel like to make the transition into this thing that you were so passionate about?
Yes.
There's nothing like when you teach a child. I teach, that's why online teaching wasn't for me. I like to look into a child's eye and I can tell if the child understands. Because my passion is math.
Yeah.
From a child, that's the only thing I could do in school. Don't tell me to write a paper. I couldn't sit. I'm not you, Kamal. I couldn't write a book. But I could sit all day and work math. So
see, and I'm not like you. I couldn't sit all day and work math. So
what's 1 + 1?
11.
I like that. So when I teach a child, and I could tell in the child's eye, I look in the child's eye, and I can tell if they understand.
Yeah.
If I see they don't get that, I say, okay, let's leave that. And I try a different method, because in math, there's so many different ways of teaching the same thing. So I will spin off from one to the other. And it's so funny because sometimes I never realized I was doing it. And then one AP said to me one day, I really like to come to your class because I see how you go. You have one thing in the lesson, you're teaching it, you look at your kids, and then you're trying something else. And I said, I do? She said, yes. And I can tell because you look at your kids and you can tell if they're getting it. If they're not getting it, you don't care what you're writing your lesson. You're doing something else. And that's just my passion. I just love to see the twinkle in their eyes. I just love to see how they get it.
So Sister Rose, this is funny because our producer and myself, we were having this conversation just the other day. And let me be clear, the school system has lost a gem. The school system has lost a gem. I think that's the best word for me to say it. Because we were just talking about that, and the challenge with education, the challenge is that teachers are saying you have to do it this way. You must do it this way. And I think that the school system has lost a gem because you're saying, no, there are different ways. And what I want to do is to teach you how to think and how to figure this out. Christine just said, and if I could piggyback on what she says, if I could Christine, you give me a little bit of liberty with what you said. Christine said, you saw the twinkle in their eyes. But I'm gonna tell you what I hear Christine saying. The twinkle in their eyes were more important to you than that 55% more salary on Wall Street.
That's
Would
right.
that be an accurate statement?
Excellent. That's it.
And the reason why I keep hammering that is because it's very important as a part of your preparation for retirement out there. You have to have loved what you did. You had to have enjoyed what you did, or once you get to retirement, it's going to be all regrets. I'm in case about to throw something and hit me, so let's take a quick break and come right back.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they've kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection. All right, so welcome back. If you are just joining us, we have been
missed a good conversation.
We have been having this great conversation with Rosabel Martin, making our way through the journey to retirement. We've been talking about the career that she had previously. We've been talking about the transition she made into teaching, which was a career that she loved and shone in. And so now the question becomes, and I think Christine is clarifying or kind of expanding on what she said before, the desire for more and wanting to gain knowledge.
That's the twinkle. That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. So now we've been talking about just this great passion that you had for teaching and teaching math specifically, and having those twinkle in the eye moments with your students. So given that you had that great experience, how did you know when it was time to make the transition into retirement?
That was a big one for me, because I only put 19 years. Mm-hmm. So 20 years would have made my retirement really nice. Mm-hmm. Monetary. Mm-hmm. So even when I said to a friend, a teacher, "Oh, I'm going to retire," and she said to me, "How many years?" I said 19. And she looked at me and said, "You can't do that. You can't do that." I said, "What?" She said, "You can't do that to yourself. You're losing too much money. You can't do that." Mm. And I said to her, "Who losing the money, you or me?"
That's fair. Fair question.
Fair question.
That's why I like it.
So what happened a year and a half ago, just after COVID started, I had a cousin. She was a math teacher too. She retired like the end of September, October. Mm-hmm. By March, she had cancer, and by June, she was dead. Oh, wow. And I had cancer like 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So then I said, I need to have some kind of retirement time. So I said, this is it for me. Mm-hmm. At the end of the school year, I'm saying goodbye. Mm-hmm. So 19 years was it. But I know my plan is to find hospitals where I can tutor kids who are going through cancer. Mm. So I'm going to, that's my retirement thing. I'm going to go to the hospitals, find students who are going with cancer, because they have lots of students, young, with cancer, and I'm going to teach them.
My hope, and, I'm just going to say it, you have not because you asked not. My hope is that you'll join our Jesus is the Answer Hope campaign ministry and do it under, because you're leaving New York, so Pastor Baldio can't get mad at me.
Ah,
And you'll run that ministry under there in Florida. That's my home. I'm just telling you my home.
so we'll talk about that.
I do want to ask you, as we're preparing for retirement, I want to back up just a little bit. When in this job now that you're passionate about it wasn't easy every day, correct?
No, it wasn't easy every day, but because it's your love, it's your passion, you don't feel the stress of it. There are stress as every job, but I felt more rewarding, fulfilling than corporate life.
Yes.
People think I would miss corporate life. There's some things you miss, but it doesn't work. It's
So
not the
how
same.
did you deal with those stressors? So for example, a stressor would have been a student dying. A stressor would have been when students, especially with math, when students don't care, when you know the value of what you're teaching and they don't care. How did you deal with those stressors?
It is. So you have to show them the passion. Oh, of course, they would say to you, "Oh, where am I going to use math? We're going to use math. I'm not going to use math. I'm not going to use math." I said, "Oh, so you don't get a salary? So you don't go to the store to shop? Then I'm going to have a store down the street, and you come and shop. You give me $10, and the item costs $5, and I give you $1 back. How would you like that?" So I show them how math is used in everyday life. Every aspect of your life, you use math. And then I say, "Okay, of course."
And so because you love this thing, you found ways, I like this word, Kamal, this is your word, to cope as you went through it. All right, so Kamal, I know Kamal wants to go back into this retirement decision.
I do. I do want to make note of Christine's statement, and as Sister Sands gave you a shout out there. I like that, Rose. Praise God. There it is on your screen.
And by the way, Sister Sands, Sister Rose has reminded me of my neglect, and we will make sure that book is in the mail tomorrow.
All right. So Christine noted, powerful there. You really have to love what you do, and it's rewarding and satisfying. So it makes me think of this. So your environment from something that you absolutely love. How important is it that you were able to have that really rewarding and meaningful experience with this profession that you loved? How important was that as you're making this transition into retirement?
So I was thinking about myself, as well as I wanted to retire for myself, but I also want to carry on this journey of mine, my passion.
Mm-hmm.
So to carry on my passion, I said, how can I carry my passion? I don't have to work again for the money, but then I can give back. I can keep giving back.
Yeah.
So in the giving back, and because I had cancer before, I said, this is it. This is my passion. Then I'm going to go towards this.
Yeah.
So then, what I hear you say is you didn't really retire.
You no one ever really retires.
Just transitioned from a formal role to an informal role. Can I ask you this? How different do you imagine that retirement would have been for you if you had never left corporate America and pursued what you were passionate about?
I'm excited about that question.
If I stayed in corporate America,
it
would have been stressful. Corporate America is stressful in the end.
Yeah.
It can be a stressful life because remember, corporate America is for the white man, and I'm a black woman. So that by itself brings on a lot of stress because you always have to prove yourself continually. You always have to go above and beyond to show that you have some kind of smarts. So corporate America is challenging, and looking back, I don't think I would have stayed much longer. The stress it brings to you when you see where you're held back, is very stressful to your mind.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say and what I'm hearing Kamala is if I reach retirement and I'm not satisfied with the work that I did, I could go into retirement bitter.
Yeah.
I could go into
Yeah.
retirement. And does that sound about correct?
Yes, you're right.
Let's take a quick break and come back. So, Sister Sands, you have participated in her journey to healing, reaching people with a desperate cry. How was it?
Awesome. Awesome. It was a period like no other. It proved to me the importance of unlearning to learn. It was very enlightening, very burden releasing, and accepting oneself the way one was created, the way God intended for one to live.
I think Anna K purposely pulled that one because she knows Sister Sands is on.
I have two questions that are kind of just swirling around in my head. I want to start with this one, Sister Rose. So there's somebody out there who's either listening right now or they'll listen at a later time, who's getting to that stage in their life where they are contemplating retirement, but they didn't make a decision to follow something that they were passionate about.
Yeah, good job.
What would you say to that person who is in that position right now?
So everyone didn't plan like you did. Everyone didn't prepare themselves like you did. Everyone didn't go. Everyone didn't weren't educated. Didn't have the background that you have. But retirement is coming up on them anyway. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for them?
It's never too late for your passion. Mm-hmm. It's never too late for your passion. I'm sure you have seen people going. The other day I saw where this man was in the 70s getting a high school diploma. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you have a real passion for something, no matter what stage in your life, you should go after that passion, because you're never going to feel fulfilled until you do that passion that you have. Mm-hmm. You'll never be fulfilled.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Because I think so many people need to hear that. They need to hear that it's not too late.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Life is not over. We're still here.
That's right.
So let's make the most of it. And that's such an important thing.
I would rather spend the last 3 years of my life empowered, doing what I love to do, versus spending my whole life not having pursued my passion. Absolutely. And so I think it's really important that Sister Rose would have told us, don't give up. And I don't know who that word was to. You didn't feel like you accomplished what you wanted to. You didn't feel like you did everything you wanted to. Please don't give up.
No.
Keep trying.
Go towards your passion. Feel your passion.
That's right. That's right. And if it's even one day living and enjoying your passion, do it.
Do it.
I want to ask you this, Kamala, before you ask your second one, is tell us about the journey. So a lot of people, okay, I'm here at retirement, or here where I switch careers, or I'm here. Talk to us about living in the journey, not just let me tell you what I'm saying. My daughter, for example, on yesterday, she said to me, all right, so I have, she did a speech on Saturday. So she said, I did that speech. I have a speech on Thursday. I have an exam, and then I have a speech for graduation. And she's just, preparing herself for this event and this event and this event and this event. And what I want her to understand is, babe, don't just jump from events to events. What I'm asking you to talk to us a little bit about, Sister Rosabel, the journey. That's right.
You have to enjoy moments of your life.
Yes.
Do something that you really love to do. Travel, take a vacation here, hang with friends. But with all of your work experiences, you still have to take time out for yourself.
Yes.
Take time out and then, as they say, smell the roses. Smell
No
rose.
pun intended, right?
Smell rose. She likes
That
Chloe.
really-
She likes
that
Chloe
really
smell
actually-
rose.
I'm sorry.
So you're going from one exam to the other, as your daughter is saying, you get burnt out. So within that time, you should, take some time for yourself. And sometimes when you sit back and just think about life, you see instances where you could have done things differently. So then you need to do that. Take a little time so you can really view life. Sit back, view life, and keep going. Because you going, and you don't take time, you're making mistakes, you're doing things that you shouldn't do. And sometimes you're wasting time where you could have, you're not as productive as you should be.
Here's what I heard you say, and I'm one of the most, when I passed it in Fort Lauderdale, Sister Martin, one of the worst scenes for me, and I was actually Christine's pastor for a while. One of the worst scenes for me was we had a member who he worked, and he worked really, really, really hard, and he worked really hard, and he worked in a freezer, and his hands were swollen, his feet were swollen, and he just worked, and he was saving all his monies to send home, all his monies to send home, all his monies to send home. And I think he went home in his 80s. What you just said was, no, that's not life. You can't do that.
Life.
As you're in your career, enjoy the journey. Don't just save up to go buy that big house. You're about to enjoy your Florida home, but you would have enjoyed your journey before you ever got. So you haven't even left. You have your house in Florida. You haven't even left New York yet.
That's right.
So you'd have enjoyed that journey to get there instead of just trying to think about the destination.
Yeah.
Because life is a journey.
Right.
Life is a journey.
Right.
So along life's journey, you have to take time to enjoy moments.
Yes.
You can't just go look towards the end because you might never get there. But along the way, take time to enjoy moments.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And I
Take
see my
time to
dad is commenting, just kind of echoing what you said. That it's important to smell the roses as you go along. If you don't, you might never get the chance to do so later in life.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Now, in your discussion, you kind of answered my second question, so it's okay if we move on from it. Because what I'm really curious about now, in the beginning, we started off by talking about, your work in the food pantry, kind of maintaining and running that.
That's right, yeah.
And so what that tells me is that your faith has played a role in your life throughout all of this. Tell us a little bit how your faith has helped you to make these decisions, helped you to make these transitions, and how it's helping you now as you
help you to decide to retire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I say, the transitions, the decision to
Mm-hmm.
pursue what you are passionate about, and kind of the decision where you are now as you're transitioning to retirement and you're making these moving plans. How's your faith?
What role did faith play?
So I grew up in a large family. My parents Adventist, so my mother was very active in the church. So then we became very active in the church. So as a child, we were active in the church, and she taught us how to develop faith in God.
Yeah,
you had to give back to God, monetary and your time. It was important to her that we give back our time. So I came out of a place like that. Even when I was in school, I was typing the church bulletins. I'm going to college in Canada. I was typing the church bulletins. So as I look back through my life, I was always very active in the church. That's a part of me. I was always very active in the church. So there's never a time in my life that I never had an office in church. It just never, that part of me. I always have to be active. I have to be doing things in church. So looking back at my retirement, looking towards my retirement, I know I'm going to miss New York because the middle part of my life is at my church in New Rochelle. So I came in my 20s. I'm going in my 60s. So I'm not going to live 40 more years.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
Oh, I don't think so. So
you might outlive us all, Sister Rose.
I don't think so. Well, just might. So I have always known that because of my love for God, because I've seen how he has blessed me tremendously. I cannot count my blessings. And you shall know that I love to say God loves Rose. It's a thing I say all the time. God loves Rose. Sometimes people come to me and said, you shouldn't say that. I said, I don't tell you not to say God. I didn't tell nobody not to say God loves them. Every time they know that. But every time I'm going to testify, I say God loves Rose. That's a standing thing for Rose.
Right.
I shouted on the mountaintop. He loves me.
That's right.
I can see his blessings on my life. And because of that, anything I can do to please him, I do it.
Amen.
Because I see his love in my life. Therefore, in return, my love for him is doing things for others.
Amen.
And in his cause.
Sister Rose, I'm going to ask you something. We'll take our last break. But let's give you an opportunity to think about it if you want to answer. But you kind of threw it out there, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about it, or to give you an opportunity to talk about it. Death. Let me just ask a general question. What are your thoughts? Do you think about it? Is it what are your thoughts? Is it on your mind? Is it not on your mind? Just what are your thoughts? Let's take a quick break and we'll come back, and we'll see what Sister Rose does with that part of the discussion.
I created the sickle cell coloring book for kids because, just like you, I was worried about my child's sickle cell diagnosis. I had so many questions that I needed answered. This coloring book answers how sickle cell affects the body. It shares terms that will help you understand what's going on so you will be empowered.
And Sister Rose, talk to us about that. How do you think about how? Talk to us about that.
Yes, I do think about death, but not in a negative way. I know that when God is ready for me, he will take me. But each day of my life, I live with the thought that if I do what is right and pleasing in his sight, then I don't have to worry about death. I don't have to worry about that. I don't worry about that in the sense that I'm scared of dying. I'm not scared of dying, because if I live each day in a relationship with God, then I know my end should be fine with him.
Hmm.
And he's not gonna come and say, "Oh, Rose, you did that bad thing one day," or "Rose, you did that bad thing one day." He's gonna think of my overall life, what I did for him, how I loved him, how I expressed my love of him to others. And that's how he's gonna judge me by. And I know if I remain true and faithful to him, I shouldn't be scared of dying. I shouldn't be scared of death.
Yeah. You know, I think that's such an important question, because I think for many people who make that transition into retirement, it can feel like the end of an era. And so when you're making that transition into retirement, some of the things that you're contemplating are things like end of life. And you may also be in that in that experiencing where even, you know, friends and loved ones who came along this ride of life with you have already passed away. And so I think that's such an important question for people to, you know, contemplate, because Sister Rose has told us a lot of things tonight that I really think can help people making a transition into retirement to make that transition smoother. You talked about having a relationship with God. You talked about having a relationship with yourself. You talked about making sure that in your pursuit of things, even as you pursue your passions, if you have that opportunity, to also pursue things like self-care, taking care of yourself, taking time to enjoy life.
Provide the opportunity where you can take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
And living really in the present, not just living for the next thing that's coming along. We're living in anticipation of this next thing that's happening, but living for today.
I have one more question, Sister Rose. But before I ask my one more question, Christine says, "Oh yes, when you live a full life, death comes easy, unafraid." And she said, "Speaks is powerful." Rick Warren says, Christine, to that point, "Only the fool does not prepare for the inevitable." We're going to die,
Right.
and we don't need. Sister Rose says, we don't need to be afraid of death.
No.
That's why our faith. That's
Right.
why she walks around and she says, God loves me. So she doesn't have to be afraid of death at all. Thank you, Sister Rose. As you can see, as every week, the hour just zooped on by. But Sister Rose, you got to answer one more question, and you're the one that said it. We didn't say it. You said you're going into your 60s. So what we want to ask you, what's the secret? What's the secret for looking? So I don't remember. How did I
Don't
find out?
worry.
How did I find out that you were at retirement age? Was it when I came to your church?
Yeah, you said something, and I said, you said to me, "Are you retiring early?" You said to me, "Are you retiring early?"
That's what happened. That's right.
And
That's
I said,
right.
"Pastor, retiring early? I passed retirement age."
All right, how did you do it? What? Tell us your secret. You know, I want my wife to look like that when we.
Oh, stop! She looks better than that.
Tell me, what's the secret?
No, Camilla, no. As it said, I'm a passionate person. I mean, I would say things, but I say things and move on. You know, I don't. If I were to say I don't like it today, I'm going to tell you straight up. But I don't dwell in it. I don't have envy. I don't hate anyone. If I have something to say to them, I say to them. I don't. No one can say I don't speak to them. You know, because why not? You know, so I don't keep things in my mind towards anyone.
Yeah.
I try to do what's right. I try to help anyone I can. And I just try to be Rose.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
If Rose thinks today she wants something, she gets it. Tomorrow is something and that's it. So I don't let nothing. I try not to let things stress me out too much.
Yeah.
I love what you said. I don't envy anyone. That is so important. As we age, you know, my wife and I, we joke all the time. You know, Sister Rose, 60 does not seem old to me at all anymore. there was a time when I thought my current age of 42 was old. But now that we're here, it's a whole, and what you said is as Kamala and I age, 8 years from now when I'm 50, 9 years from now when she's 50, what we must do is not envy people. That's so critical.
Mhm.
Don't envy what other co-workers have. Don't envy. Um, as you know, Sister Rose, I'm currently not in the pulpit, and you know, I watched the funeral today, and I saw all my colleagues, and you know, I thoughts go through your mind, but then you have to decide, why did you make this decision?
Right.
What was the passion? What's the passion that you have? What are you driving? And if envy is gonna creep up for you to then say, oh, you know what? Let me go back to doing da, 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 da," then so I really appreciate you saying tonight, do not envy anyone. And if we don't envy anyone, that will help us to age well. I like that.
I also
Pastor,
heard,
my
Yeah,
mother
go.
died at 61, and
Yeah.
I lived so many years after that. I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And I used to say she was old, but I said to myself, I'm not old.
You're not. You're not at all.
Yeah,
And your
I'm 7
attitude,
years past that, so
praise
I'm not
God.
old,
You beat cancer.
right?
You were able to switch careers after 20 years. I'm really, really happy to have met you, to be acquainted with you, and hopefully once you go, are you gonna keep the same number?
Hopefully, you'll get my new number. Don't worry.
Okay. Before Pastor Baldeo?
Why you like to go there?
We just talked
We
about
just
envy.
talked about envy.
We just talked about envy, didn't we? But Sister Rose, thank you for spending the time.
Pastor, one thing quick. As
Yes.
long as you get to heaven, you don't care if you were the first or last. You get to heaven.
Hey! That's the fact. That's the fact. That's the fact. Thanks for spending the time with us, Anna Kay. Let's invite you into the studio. As Anna Kay is coming in the studio to share with us our winners, I just want to say really quick that none of this happens without Anna Kay Fagan. None of this happens without her, and we're grateful to you, Anna Kay, for all the hard work that you do, for all the time that you've spent. And yes, I tell you in private, but I want to say it publicly, and I want for it to be clear that anybody who's watching understands, and none of this happens without Anna Kay Fagan, and we're very, very grateful. Auntie, would you tell us who our winners are tonight? And Cheryl says you're not old.
Dorothy!
Dorothy! And then the second person is and Cheryl. Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Drum roll, please.
All right, Christine Hay. So that was who? Dorothy Simith and Christine Hay. Dorothy Simith, Christine Hay. Head over to kwministries.net. That's KW Ministries. There it is on your screen. kwministries.net.
Claim your prize.
Claim your prize. Fill out that information, and we will mail you. One of you will get
From My Eyes, Stories and Reflections for Men, and Woman, This Is For You.
So thank you so very much. Oh, and your code is Novia, Novia, Novia. That's your code. And so a part of the thing that you'll see to fill out is it's going to ask you for a code, Novia. All right. Brother Glenn says I am 79 years old. Awesome, Brother Glenn.
Concurred with you earlier.
About worrying that we
when
should
you
not.
retire, it's a good time to volunteer in church, helping others. It will take your mind about worrying about death.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, everyone that hung with us tonight. We hope that you were inspired. We purposely did not talk about a 401k. We purposely did not talk about sitting down with planners. We purposely did not ask those questions. Number one, that's ladies' private business. But then number two, we wanted for you to realize, and we didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about, but I just knew from meeting her, from talking with her, I just knew that she was enjoying her life. And I knew that we would be inspired by what she said. That once she told me she walked away from Wall Street, I said, we have something special here. And we certainly did on tonight, Kamala.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Sister Rose, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
being with us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And like you said, whether it's somebody watching us live tonight or somebody who's going to pick this up later on, I know somebody was inspired.
Thank you very much. And may God bless you. And, I know him. So just know this. I'm in the line before you, Greg. Just know that. Good night, Sister
My
Rose.
lips are sealed. Good night,
Have a
everyone.
wonderful night. Thank you so very much. God bless all of you. Thank you. See you next week, Monday night.
Night.